Immemorial, the Himalayas have represented to the Hindus the ultimate in spiritual growth, and also the place where that spiritual growth can be achieved. Therefore, people have always gone to the Himalayas when they wanted to search for spiritual life. They may have started in the plains, but the call has always been northwards to the Himalayas, and I don't think it has changed.
The eternal call of the Himalayas captured a small group of people who followed Master on a trip to the north of India in October 1993. One goal was to find the place for a future ashram in the mountains. We traveled from Delhi eastward through the plains of Uttar Pradesh up to the foothills to finally reach the mountains of the Himalayas. The trip started in Delhi, as noisy, as busy and hectic as all other metropolitan cities of this world. More and more so today, frantically trying to ape the West and its so-called achievements. That even India sets out for the race of competition and that people lose their values in life was a recurring theme of Master's speeches.
Now, what is the civilization where we have brilliant scientists, brilliant technologies, magnificent creations, yet absolute, utter, total human misery? We have to think, you see, how in this world of plenty today, where you have to do hardly anything to exist, everything is done by machines, by electricity, computers, spacecraft, name it, you have it. Why are you miserable? Why are scientists going astray? Why are professors becoming mad? Why are students drug addicts? Nobody thinks, you see. More and more pressure, more and more competitiveness, more and more, standing on dead bodies, making them ladders of your success. And we blame Genghis Khan, we blame Hitler, we blame Napoleon, and say they were criminals. How are we less criminals? When an officer in an organization rises, not by merit, but by influence, by pushing out merit and pushing himself up because he has influence, is it not a crime against his colleagues, against society itself? Because we are left with influential mediocrities at the top. Is it not a crime? That is why our society is like this today, you see. How to renounce all this? Renounce the idea of success. Life is not meant to be successful. Life is meant to be oriented towards evolution. Spirituality says, why do you want to wait till the end of your life? When perhaps you can no longer walk, when you can no longer understand, senility has set in, you are physically weak, mentally weak, morally disgusted with yourself, after all that we have done in our lives, to achieve what we call success. In spirituality, there is no success. People often ask, what can we get by spiritual practice? The answer is nothing. In a real sense, it is nothing. It is not the nothing that is zero, but it is the nothingness which is God, because God is of nothingness. So the way of spirituality is very simple, you see. Meditation, slowly to establish contact, in silence, because his language is silence, when in fact, if we are really trying to get into touch with the divine, we must be silent, because only in silence can we hear him. It is no use our trying to call him. He must call us. He must give us instruction. He must speak to us. He must reveal himself to us. Here it is a silence where all the indriyas are brought into a balanced stillness, and we maintain that stillness day after day after day, so that progressively his presence becomes more and more manifest, and one day the voice, the still silent voice of God as they call it, begins to speak to us. Then it offers guidance from inside. We no longer look for external guidance. We sit in meditation, and every instruction, every guidance, every help, every assistance, anything that you need comes from within yourself. Even in the physical world, your physical strength is from within yourself. Your intelligence is from within yourself. Your ability to earn money is from within yourself. Your education is in yourself. What is it that you get from outside? Only the fruit of labor. In life there is no success. What is success? Success lies in evolving, not having.
The first part of the journey led us through Uttar Pradesh, the land of great saints, rishis and sages. For the travelers along with Master, the past didn't matter much. It was a journey inside as well as outside. A trip with companions on the path inevitably means a very human experience, colored with all sides of human nature.
What is a journey? A journey doesn't have to be over space. See, that is a purely physical understanding, that a journey means traveling from somewhere to somewhere. But suppose I go from a state of no understanding to a state of understanding. It is also a journey in a sense, isn't it? From a state of hate to a state of love, it is another journey. So here the word journey is used in its widest sense as going from one state to the other state, or one condition to the other condition. It is called journey, but it does not mean journey over space, nor does it involve time. It need not involve time. It can be instantaneous. Like when I think of Venus, I can say my mind is making a journey from here to Venus, and it is instantaneous. It is still a journey. That it does not take time does not mean there is no journey.
In Lucknow, the capital of UP, we were guests in the private home of the preceptor in charge. His house and garden were lovingly turned into a function ground, and more than 500 abhyasis had come to meet Master.
मैंने एक बात आज तय कर ली है कि आज से लेकर हम मौन व्रत रखेंगे क्योंकि हमें चैन से बैठने नहीं देते ये लोग। बाबूजी ने तो कई बातें सिखाई, लेकिन हम बेवकूफ रहे, हमने ये नहीं सीखा उनसे कि बिना बोले कैसे हम आप लोगों को कुछ सिखाएं। बाबूजी महाराज ने वो कहानी सुनाया करते थे, वो कौन सी कहानी हम भूल गए। वो एक जो प्रेमी था, लैला मजनू, वो बदसूरत थी फिर भी प्यार। अब खूबसूरती तो सब प्यार करते हैं, बदसूरत से कौन करेगा? वही है सच्चा प्यार। तो हमें तो दुख होता है कि बार बार हम प्रेम के बारे में सुनते हैं, बोलना पड़ता है, सब कुछ करना पड़ता है, लेकिन कहीं मिलता नहीं है प्रेम। बाबूजी महाराज लास्ट तक कहते रहे कि कोई एक मिल जाए जो सच्चे ढंग से प्यार करे, तो गुरु का जीवन उद्धार हो जाता है, संपूर्ण हो जाता है। और वो जिसलिए यहाँ आए वो उस काम पूर्ति करके चले जाते हैं। जैसे एक बत्ती से दूसरी बत्ती जलाई जा सकती है, नौकरी में काबिल है, पैसे कमाने में काबिल है, सब कुछ में हम काबिल हैं, तो किस चीज में हम नाकाबिल रहे? केवल एक। इतने बरस जिंदा रहने के बाद भी, जिंदगी काटने के बाद भी, शादी होने के बाद भी, बच्चों पैदा करने के बाद भी, पोते पर पोते होने के बाद भी हम ना प्रेम दे सके ना प्रेम ले सके। तो इस पर सोचना है बहुत कि ये प्रेम क्या है। दिल खोल के हम कम से कम इतना तो समझें कि प्यार क्या होता है, यहां है कि नहीं। तो ईश्वर तो प्रेम स्वरूप ही है, गॉड इज लव अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं। तो लव मिल गया तो गॉड मिल जाना चाहिए, गॉड मिल गया तो लव मिल जाना चाहिए। तो ये कोई क्या कहे ख्वाब नहीं है, असलियत है। तो अपनी सफाई हम करेंगे तो बाबूजी महाराज और हायर काम कर सकते हैं। इसीलिए उन्होंने एक प्रिसेप्टर भाई साहब को उन्होंने पत्र डाला था कि आपके सेंटर से हमारे पास लोग इतने गंदे आते हैं कि हमारे तो दम उठ जाता है उनकी सफाई करते करते। हम उनकी और आगे तरीके हम कैसे करवाएं।
What you have for your children and your husbands is only attachment. It is not love. So today we have no family. The only mockeries of families, people living together, huddling together out of such mutual protection that they think they can get out of it. No love. We have societies huddling together. No love. Women must become what they are supposed to be. Because it is women who corrupt society, spoil society, tempt society. Strishu dushtashu varshneya jayate varnashankara, says the Gita. The onus for morality, for respectability in a society, for purity is laid squarely on women. I am not saying it, Lord Krishna says it. You cannot break up the whole into parts. The heart is a whole thing. It is not destined only for you to love your husband and your children. Yes, samsara is necessary because there you learn to love. But that love must widen. When you throw a stone into a pond, the first ripple expands until the whole pond is full of ripples. So samsara is, samsaric jivan is only to teach you how to love. But if you restrict it, it becomes sour, it becomes dirty, it stinks.
Love is probably the only valid quality of God, because love has no opposite, as Master explains.
You cannot say of God that he is pure. I mean, if he was pure, then the idea of impurity comes at once, because every quality has its opposite. You cannot say God is virtuous, because then there is vice as its opposite. You cannot say God is wise, because then there is stupidity as its opposite. You cannot say God is strong, because then you have the weakness of the opposite. So when we define God as all merciful, compassionate, all this, blah, 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 of various religions, we are only thinking of an anthropomorphic conception of God, but God is nothing.
It was a bit of a historical moment when Master had breakfast with Birte, Babaji's first European Navyasi, Sister Kasturi, who lives in Lucknow, and our host, Bhai K. Gupta, also a close associate of Babaji. It is said that Babaji brought Kasturi to perfection within the span of 8 years. For us, it is not easy to identify another person's saintly condition. Only the Master can see the flawless shine or the hidden blemishes in a person's heart. Again and again, Master has to remind us that the spiritual charge we receive brings the responsibility to mold our character by our own cooperation. Only a master of caliber moves beyond all human values.
So if I am good, I am only good. But there may be occasions when I have to be bad. Bad in the sense of the ordinary human judgmental values. When a saint has to destroy, is he good or bad? These judgments don't apply. Good or bad, as Shakespeare said, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. No, stop thinking. Again, this problem of the intellect, you see. Stop thinking. Who are you to judge what is good and what is bad? If you have accepted that Babuji is my master and he is all-knowing and he is a special personality and is God himself in human form, how are you capable of judging? Have you the equipment to judge? Have you the right to judge? Should you judge at all?
It seems a strong human tendency to hold on to the past, to worship and glorify events which time has left behind long ago. We make idols, museums, to fulfill our need for security and to hide our lack of faith in the Absolute, here and now. That is why a living master is so essential, to shake us out of our mummification. He is beyond all duality.
In my master's life, very definitely I have found this. Because he was on the knife edge. One moment he was sick, but the next moment he was healthy. At 2 o'clock he is lying in his bed, groaning with pain, and the people are rushing around looking for medicine and doctors. At 2:30 he is in his rickshaw going to the ashram. Nobody would believe. See? A skeptical man would think this man is putting on an act. He is working when he is asleep and apparently idle when he is awake, when he should be doing something, sitting on the easy chair with his knees drawn up to his chin, smoking. He had no money, but he fed everybody who came to his house. He had no knowledge, he was only 5th or 6th class as he used to say, but he could answer any question anybody put to him. He had never studied anything, but he could quote from, for instance, Patanjali. Where did he get it? So you see, when we are at that stage, between this and this, we are in effect above both. When we are above both, we have access to anything that we want. When you are flying in a helicopter, you can see so many things on the ground, but if you are on the ground, you can see only what is in front of you. So really they are not, between anything. They are above the opposites. No, to be above the opposites, I cannot cling to one of the opposites and say I don't want the other. I will be a wise man but not a fool. I will be intelligent but not stupid. I will be rich but not poor. I will be healthy but not sick. I will be beautiful but not ugly. You cannot say these things, because unless you give up both, you are stuck in this world of opposites.
In Shahjahanpur, we stopped for half a day. A small group of overseas Abhyasis set out to search for the mission's ashram and for the house in which Babuji lived.
No, this is something in the nature of a spiritual experience. You see, there are things which we create. For instance, let us compare with Shahjahanpur. Shahjahanpur is a creation of my master. I don't of course mean the city of Shahjahanpur, but what we mean by Shahjahanpur, namely his house and the ashram. The ashram is made of brick, mortar, cement. What was special about it was the spiritual charge that Babuji created. Same thing was in his house. But the spiritual charge is so very subtle that the highest charge can be lost within a few minutes. If people of the wrong type live there, if people have wrong thoughts, wrong actions, hatred, jealousies, wickedness, especially.
Just 6 people. We have 6 people. Yeah. Okay.
Ils sont conscients, oui, tout à fait.
Explique-toi. You know where Babuji,
Just enter
where
the room.
Babuji was.
Just a minute. Please arrange for 1 minute. Something will be.
So I don't think anything can be charged forever, because then masters don't need to come again and again. Even avatars have to come again and again, as Krishna says in the Gita. So when avatars have to come, I don't see how masters can avoid coming again and again. Nobody can evade death. And nobody, I think, should evade death. Even the great avatars died. Rama died, Krishna died. Where are they today? So who will not die? Only one who has earned the right to be immortal. Not in this existence, but in a different way in the spiritual existence. Because this existence has to go. Why? Because it is gross, it is heavy, it is sick. It is the cause of both our pleasures and our miseries. Pleasure is through the body, sickness is through the body, of the body, in the body. Psychosomatic, it only means that not only is my body sick, but my mind is sick. In some way, my mind is making my body sick. Everything is in the mind. Hunger is a psychosomatic phenomenon. Nobody says, I am hungry. See, of course, we point to the stomach. But if the appropriate center in the brain was not activated, I would never feel hungry. I would just die of hunger without knowing that I am dying of hunger. So everything is psychosomatic. What is not psychosomatic?
Soma and psyche, body and mind, spirituality and psychology was the subject of a training seminar held at Sitapur. Being a Raja Yoga system which aims at regulating the mind, Saj Mark has a very profound psychological impact on those who follow it seriously.
We create in another person what he is by our thought. If I say this man is my enemy, he becomes my enemy. If I say I don't trust this fellow, he can never be trusted, at least not by me, because I have bred the idea of mistrust in him. With every thought, we sow the seeds of enmity, of dissonance, of destruction. Therefore, the message of Babuji, to think positive thoughts, don't have negative thoughts. All are friends.
आध्यात्मिक साधना जो करते हैं उसके कारण जो तब्दीली आप अंदर ले आते हैं आध्यात्मिक जीवन में अपने इसमें यहाँ दिल के परिवर्तन में, वो बाहर अगर अपने बर्ताव में रिफ्लेक्शन नहीं आएगा तो वो बेकार है। हम कहेंगे सहज मार्ग का नाम का महत्व का प्रभाव तभी हम मानेंगे जब लोग कहेंगे हमें साथ ले चलो।
With life and death, I think we can say like this too, because
Ferdinand Bullimeier, a Swiss preceptor and psychologist, was invited to speak. He tried to link up modern psychiatry and psychotherapy with the ancient systems of meditation like Zen, Sufism, Taoism, and of course Sage Mark.
The process also.
Like always in such training courses, both the theoretical as well as the practical aspects of sadhana were included. The session of questions and answers turned out to be the very highlight of this seminar. Questions from disciple to master, who is the ultimate psychologist.
I have always found work corrects our moods and normalizes it. Whenever people come with depression and things like that, my first advice is go for a long walk. Because physical activity does affect mental activity. And if you are just going to sit in a corner and brood and brood and brood, nothing is going to pull you out of it. Whereas if you start doing something, you, in a sense, detach your attention from yourself. Moodiness is nothing more than involvement, too much involvement with your own self. So, instead of moods affecting work, I think work affects moods if you are willing to work. Unfortunately, in this country, most of us are not willing to work. So moods remain moods. Please try it, because proof of the pudding is in the eating. I have a feeling that psychology or the usefulness of psychology, psychiatry, they are conditioned by the way of life. It is absolutely unquestionable that Western psychology has done immense service to mankind in unraveling the mysteries of the mind. There's no doubt about it. As a science, it is an enormously useful science and we must use it. So you see, I personally feel there is a distinction between the West and the East in a very fundamental way. Here we have big families. We have a lot of children. We suffer physically. I mean, even the rich people suffer, the poor suffer very much. But they suffer only physically. Mentally, they are healthy. Psychologically, they are healthy. Because nature prevails, nature has its sway. There is this inner fulfillment, what he said about the psyche, you see, the soul. That is fulfilled. Whereas when we seek a material civilization, a material welfare, it is only the welfare of the body, soma. See. So I think in future you will find that Western psychology helps less and less Western people because they are going against nature in their aspirations towards more and more material welfare, comforts, things like that. So the civilization, the Western Occidental civilization which created psychology will not benefit from it.
A basic human tendency is to project our problems and shortcomings onto others. But the actual source of the problem lies within ourselves.
Thoughts are embedded in us, in our samskaras, and if you have nobody to talk to, you are going to think those same thoughts alone. There is no escaping from this. Therefore, Sage Mark says, when you meditate and the thoughts rise out of yourself as they will, because the lid is off, so to speak, neglect them, treat them as uninvited guests and they go. The problem is not with friendship or with companions or with anybody else. The problem is with us.
One of the focal points, though, was the question of morality in the spiritual life.
So, morality, transmorality, you see, transmorality is there in every situation. But what I think Ferdinand was referring to was the level of approach in a spiritual sense, where such considerations of moral and immoral, truth and lies don't exist anymore. See, God has no mind. How can you say he is moral or immoral? He has no body. How can you say he is moral or immoral? He has no form. How can you say he is beautiful or not beautiful? So to that level of spiritual elevation, where work is given, and where, as Babuji emphasized so many times, a special personality has to do destruction too. Destruction for the sake of reconstruction. We cannot apply our human moral principles to such work. I mean, what is the morality when a thunderbolt falls and kills 200 people in, say, one part of Sitapur? Or an earthquake in Maharashtra kills 30,000 people. So in cosmic work, principles of individual morality don't apply. This is what I think Ferdinand was trying to imply when he spoke of trans-morality. We go beyond. It doesn't mean we can indulge in immorality and say, I am beyond morality. Like the kings of England said, the king can do no wrong. That is a wrong concept. Here it is the need to sacrifice principles for the sake of recreating a human society. The recreation is important. The destruction is only a way of achieving that recreation. Like for instance, when we take an injection to cure a fever, infectious fever, millions of germs in our body are killed. Really speaking, it is immoral. How can you take so many millions of lives to protect your single life? But then there is a principle in Sahaj which says the higher form of life should be protected from the lower forms of life. If a lion attacks a child, the child represents the human race and its future. It has to be protected from the lion. So what is the morality of the situation? So you see, morality is a narrow way of seeking protection behind principles which don't apply when we have to go beyond our limits of performance and capacity and responsibility. So unless I know exactly what question to ask and why it is vital to my existence, to my being, to my growing, I should stop from asking questions. I should refrain from asking questions. They have no meaning, you see. So Babuji said, please ask questions pertaining to sadhana and nothing else. How should I meditate? Well, it's a good question. Am I making progress? Stupid question. Why? Because being with the master, how can you not make progress? You know, for instance, we are on this globe and we are rotating at such a vast speed. I don't know how much it is, 23,000 miles per hour or something. But we are not feeling the moment. Suppose suddenly somebody woke up and said, oh my God, this world has stopped. I don't feel any movement. And wise man comes and says, no, but you are moving because you are on this globe. The globe is moving. You must be moving too. Only thing, because you are moving in the globe, you don't feel any motion, because perception of motion is always relative to another point. So motion is always relative. But when there is nothing to relate your motion to, will you ever perceive motion? No. What does the intellectual say? He immediately brings science into the fact and says, yes, but Chari, motion is relative. Relative to what? Something external to yourself. But when I am with God, in God, there is nothing relative to me. There is nothing outside myself by which I can judge. I am with my master and he is with me. Relative to him, I have no motion. But he is moving. I am holding his hands. I must be moving too.
Our journey brought us to the foothills of the Himalayas now, to a small place called Kicha. The intensity of nature here and the closeness of the mountains created some sort of a fresh excitement in us.
The Himalayas have represented to the Indian spirit what you can call the summum bonum of spirituality. The highest ever visible symbol of the soaring Indian spirit.
उसमें आग लग गया था ना उसके estate, नहीं लग गया था पूरा जंगल है ना He told me personally, वो हमारे घर आया करते थे शादी के बाद भी आए उसके
Especially Swami Vivekananda has referred to this again and again in his writings, in his lectures, that from the dawn of time, the spiritual seeking aspirant has always gone north to the Himalayas. Most of them disappeared, they never came back. This is not like the mountaineer who tries to climb the Everest and disappears. There he dies. Here they don't come back. They just go there and they are lost. They sit somewhere, meditate, achieve their goal, I hope, and it's finished. So you see, the Himalayas are a representation of all that I would say or call the ultimate in Indian spiritual values. Therefore, we call the call of the Himalayas as the eternal call.
Even though the Himalayas are like an eternal ashram themselves, we all share this dream of an ashram in the mountains, including Master himself.
I'm telling them there's some land near Ranikhet, you see, from where you get the entire Himalayan range view. Cost about 25 lakhs. I said, if I say the Himalayan view on mountains, Europeans like crazy, they will give donations.
There were several proposals, different plots, that have been selected by local Abhyazis, all between Nainital and Pithoraga.
Isolated भी हो.
The flawless values represented by the Himalayas are something unique and permanent. Unlike the UP, birthplace of so many great saints, which has been corrupted over time by human beings.
You see, the funny thing is, great things have happened to UP, but now it has become a criminal state. Full of criminals. Every 300 yards there's a criminal now. Whereas old days, you know, all the rishis and everything was all in Uttar Pradesh. I don't know how this inverted was come.
I'm not saying that the mountains are spiritual, please don't make the mistake. Because the mountains are what they are, mountains. The home of snow, the temple of snow. That's what Himalaya means. But for the spiritual seeker, it has been the symbol of aspiration. The immensity of the mountains shows the immensity that we have to achieve. So you see, there is no room for what you call friendship in spirituality. He is the only friend. The friendship is only with the friend. Other than him, if you have friends, you are lost. You see, the way to hell is full of company. But the way up, you can walk only alone, and later on, not even alone, but only in him, when you have ceased to exist.
Human beings have always adored and honored the beauty and strength of nature. Why is it that today it seems that the respect has been replaced by some sort of artificial romanticism?
I think maybe there is a sense in us which says you are destroying it, you will not see it again, and therefore we love it so much. It is at the moment of separation that one really understands love. So when we are going to lose something, we value it a lot. Our power to destroy is much more today, unimaginably more than it has ever been in the history of mankind. Somebody asked my master how to create world peace. He said, unless you create peace within yourself, you can create no peace outside yourself. How to love God. Unless you love God, you cannot tell others how to love God. So you see, even if you want to change the world, and there are people here I am sure who want to change everything, they forget that you cannot start outside, you have to start with yourself. I cannot educate this world unless I have educated myself first, and I can talk sensibly to a few people at least and pass on what I have learned to them. It is always a transmission. So everything must begin with the self. He who wants to change the world must first change himself. He who wants to divinize the world must first divinize himself. He who wants to educate the world must educate himself. So in spirituality, we don't think of the outside world, we don't think of changing the political scene in this country or the economic scene in this country or the industrial scene in this country. We have no problems with the environment. They will change only when we change. Because everything that was God given, our rivers, our forests, the sweet air that we had to breathe, they have been polluted by us, destroyed by us, corrupted by us. The remedy is in us.
Nature is strong but not so powerful, it takes time. For nature to heal wounds, it takes time. Of course, if the human being stops there, the forest will be there in 50 years again. But we are going on continuously. That is why. And we know we are destroying nature.
Now, what is this moment of terror, you see? Scientifically, if you look at it, all this chaos, the primordial chaos at the beginning of time, everything's torn apart, the Big Bang, meteorites. I read somewhere that is the first billionth of 1 trillionth of a second, the universe started expanding. Can you imagine time? First 1 billionth of 1 trillionth of 1 second. That is probably 10 to the power of 60 or something of a second. So how quickly this chaos came into being from that unity which was a single entity at peace, at rest in eternal calm. Now what brought about this chaos? Babaji Maharaj says, show. What was this show? And some movement within itself. What was that movement? Babaji said, when the first mind had the first thought, I am, it separated itself from the reality, the originality, the unity of all existence. And the moment that separation occurred was a moment of great, utter terror. Moment of separations are moments of terror. And when we separated ourselves from that original home, I am, this I was the thing, you see, that created this universe. Often I think to say that God created this universe is not necessarily correct. Why should God create the universe? That is why perhaps we are not able to explain this, why God created this universe. But I think it was this separation of the original mind which said, you are, I am, that created this universe. Because Babaji said that was the first bit of grossness.
There, when we separated ourselves from our Divine Father and said, I am, I started falling. Here, when we develop from simplicity towards spiritual perfection and we say, I did, we start falling. So there the fall from the highest down here was because he said, I am. The moment he said, I am separated from the infinity, from the divinity that was my source. Here I did. separates me, creates a new ego, and that ego gets bloated more and more if you allow it to get bloated. And then we say, I did everything. I can do everything. What do I need God for anymore?
Please do it. Come to me when you think you are finished with this. He can wait because he is eternity. He is the master of time. Do we have the time? Because the only sure thing in life is death, and it is waiting here. And with every moment, we are losing another precious second of our life. Everything else can be bought. Time cannot be bought. Even God cannot give you time. Because God does not know what is time. If you go and ask God, please give me some more time, He will say, what is time? For Him there is no time, there is no age. He will be puzzled, you see. He will say, ये क्या चीज़ है? बेवकूफ लोग मांगते हैं हमसे, वक्त हमें दो. वक्त क्या है? We have to have time. And if you waste your time in all these stupidities, narrow-mindedness, cultural blindness, spiritual blindness, closed heart, if your heart is closed, even God cannot help you. Because it is your heart, God says, I want lovers. I don't want prisoners. I don't want to drag them in chains to my Sannidhan, you see, and say, stay here, damn fools. He wants lovers.
How many of us are really lovers of God? God in His absolute state. Formless, nameless, attributeless. It is difficult. That is why masters have to come in a human form, with human attributes, with a personality, yet totally divine in their being. So externally the masters may appear different, but the essence remains always the same. Even in this one master, Chariji, there may be hundreds, thousands of different faces and moods, according to the need of the moment. The words do not matter, because what a master initiates in us can never be described in words.
So if you go to Babuji Maharaj, your master, and say, Babuji, I love you only because you can give me Brahmanda Mandal, Parabrahmanda Mandal, central region. He has told me hundreds of times, they come to me for regions, I give them regions. It is so easy, you see. What are we to do with the region? But we cannot just be friends of God. We cannot even be just bhaktas of God. We must finally surrender our ego, our everything, you see, our life itself, and say, what life? I never had life. It was a mistake. The moment I thought I am, I fell. And I fell into this, perpetual cycle of reincarnation, thinking I am, you see.
The illusion of the ego that it is something separate is very difficult to overcome. So the attraction of a magnet like a master is not astonishing. It is necessary. That is why again and again so many people flock around him just to be in his presence.
There is what is called the radiation from the master, which is not transmission. This is natural, automatic. Like when there is fire, there is the warmth spreading out. So that is what is happening. And that is why it is good to be in his presence. People say, why should I have the physical presence of the master? Is this not a spiritual system? Yes, of course. But when the master transmits, he uses his willpower. But when he doesn't transmit, there is an automatic flow of whatever he represents spiritually, and which is just going out of him, over which he has no control. And that we receive.
What we receive externally is not the main thing, and it may be completely different for each one of us. What really happens in the heart unfolds itself in silence.
The role of silence is precisely to allow the inner voice to speak, rather than listening to the outer voice through the ears and trying to understand with the intellect. That is why in silence we learn much more than with the spoken word or the written word.
Pamphlet that said she said that, because it was just like something she would say, although now they believe she never even said it.
I don't think so.
But if she had, it would have been sincere.
On the outside, though, he can relate to all aspects of human life, with an enormous range of knowledge, just to entertain us and keep us interested. One of his strongest tools is his humor.
It's recorded for posterity.
I don't know why you always do it.
The Windows won't come then.
But in cinemas, they show this advertising. What Babuji said.
Here he tells the story of a Western lady who had kissed Babuji on his cheek.
I was very embarrassed. You called my wife, Babu is around. They put me in lipstick. Old man spoiled the whole joke, He said, अब कोई आएगा तो पार्थ साथी के पास भेज देंगे. लेकिन पार्थ साथी के पास कोई आया नहीं.
The last stretch of this journey up to the mountains was a peak experience for all who had come along with Chariji, a visit to a piece of land between Nainital and Almora. The plot is 2,000 meters above sea level and about 5.5 acres in size. All of us felt immediately that this will be the land of a mission ashram in the mountains, not only because it has the best view.
I think for the view, this is the best view we have ever had.
What did Master feel when he first came here?
In the Himalayas, that I would go and live there and enjoy myself. Because I love the Himalayas, you know. It is a strange thing, but in India it is always like that. That is why I think India, you know, will never break up. Because always, whether you are in the south or the north, it is the Himalayas which are calling. And it's not the mountains, it's not the beauty of the mountains, it's not the snow, there is no snow, no skiing, no nothing. It is something beyond our understanding, beyond our aspiration. It is something which is pulling us, you know, it's like a magnet. As far as I am concerned, for me, the pull has been very strong from the age of 5. I did not know where the Himalayas are. I did not know the name Almora. But from that time, my father used to tell me that I have always been saying I will go to the Himalayas, and particularly to Almora. Now, when I want a Himalayan ashram, it is not for myself, of course. It is for the mission. But I am also in a certain way responding to that call.
Here the landowner brings us to one of the water sources.
See the water.
There are 3 wells of crystal clear water on this land.
अच्छा बर्फ हर साल पड़ जाता है
हाँ पड़ जाता है कि ठंडा होगा उल्टा पड़ जाता है नहीं तो उतना
5 kilometers road, money we are saving. That will pay for everything.
जो नियरेस्ट पॉइंट है
Yes, boss. I have all the time in the world. For a view.
It is charged only for few days.
अपने लोग में रहेंगे तो सो जाएंगे. First few days they will say, aha, we must have, you know.
Yeah.
This and that.
Everyone is tasting this water like a prasad of nature.
इसी से काम हो जाएगा
2 pahadi minutes is fine. 10
Swiss minutes. वाटर पॉइंट इसके बीच में है जहाँ पानी का स्रोत कल हमने देख लेते हैं. And the electricity is right here. इलेक्ट्रिसिटी भी है उस खेत में. Yes. जो इससे जुड़ा हुआ खेत है उसमें 11 kV लाइन आया हुआ है.
वो भी अब इसी प्रॉपर्टी के साथ है ना. What God or your master or whoever it is really wants is for you to develop yourself to the fullest potential of human growth, human perfection, and surrender. Such people become fit instruments for divine work. Those who have developed, who have balance, who have achieved what Babaji calls saintliness, who have reached the peak of human perfection, they become instruments, useful to God. So you see, even to surrender, we must not be weaklings to surrender. We must have this understanding that what I receive in such divine abundance, you see, it is not just a human abundance, it's divine abundance, constantly pouring everywhere on earth, which without my knowledge I have been receiving, like cosmic rays which pass through me without my knowledge. How to show my gratitude, my love, my adoration for my beloved? Participate. Participate in what? In his work. If he says destroy, don't judge and say this, but this is destruction. How can divine love destroy? Well, it is not divine love which is destroying. It is ignorance which is being destroyed so that beauty can come there. It is the seed which is being destroyed so that the plant may come up. It is one life being destroyed so that another life may flower in its place. Really, there is no mystery in spirituality. That is why God said there are no secrets in nature. How can anything be secret? God is everywhere. He cannot be a secret presence. That I do not see him is my blindness. But he who is everywhere in everything, how is it possible that we have not felt him so far? Felt his presence so far. Felt his presence in ourselves so far. We don't have to seek outside. Close your eyes and there he is. Why close your eyes? Because we have become so used to seeing what is outside, we think God is outside. You are with me, I am in you, so you have to be with me. And if I am mukt, how can you be a bonded slave? It is your ignorance. It is your identification of yourself as a separate entity, separate from myself, that makes you all these things. So really speaking, there is no mukti. When I am with him, there is no more mukti, there is no more realization, there is no more nothing. The only thing is, he is in my heart, I have to get into his heart. Become merged with him. So that is my hope and the Master's blessing for all of you. Thank you.